Imagine a world, long ago, filled with ancient kings and endless deserts. A time when a good story wasn't just for fun, it was literally a matter of life and death. We're about to dive into the incredible world of 1001 Nights, where the right words spoken at just the right time could actually stop death in its tracks.
So who said that? That's King Shahryar, and he's a man trapped by a terrible vow he made. See, after being betrayed by his first wife, he swore to marry a new woman every single day and have her executed the very next morning. It's brutal. But then comes one woman, the brilliant Scheherazade, and she has a plan. Her weapon of choice? Stories. An endless supply of them.
So every single night, Scheherazade starts telling the king a new story. But here's the trick. She never actually finishes it. Just when she gets to the most exciting part, the cliffhanger, the sun starts to rise. And the king, who is completely hooked and desperate to hear what happens next, has no choice but to let her live for just one more day. And this goes on and on for 1001 nights.
And let me tell you, these are not your average bedtime stories. They are these incredible, complex tapestries of magic and adventure, often with stories happening inside of other stories, kind of like Russian nesting dolls. They're so captivating that they don't just work on kings. They can even mesmerize the supernatural creatures within the tales themselves, like the ancient and incredibly powerful jinn.
To give you an idea of just how powerful these stories can be, listen to this one. It's a tale told by a man trying to save his friend from a very angry jinni. It's a wild story about betrayal, dark magic, and, well, a pretty strange form of revenge. So, yeah, a wife turns her husband into a dog, he gets turned back, and then for revenge, he turns her into a mule. When the man finished telling this absolutely bizarre story, the jinni was so amused that he actually granted the man's wish and spared his friend. It just goes to show you a key theme of these nights. A great story is basically a force of nature. It can change your fate and win over even the most powerful beings.
But Scheherazade is smart. She knows the best stories don't always start in a grand palace. Sometimes they start in the heart of an ordinary person who's up against impossible odds. And that brings us to our main event today. A story that starts on a lonely shore with a poor fisherman who is having a very, very bad day.
So just picture this guy, an old, poor fisherman. He's got a wife and 3 kids at home, and his entire life revolves around a single rule. He only casts his net 4 times a day. That's it. His family's next meal is completely dependent on whatever those 4 casts pull out of the water.
And on this particular day, his luck is just awful. The first cast, he pulls up the heavy, rotting body of a donkey. I mean, come on, completely worthless. His second cast brings in a huge jar, but it's just packed with sand and mud. The third, nothing but broken glass and pottery shards. So 3 strikes. You can just feel the desperation starting to creep in.
He's got one shot left. He says a quick prayer and throws his net in for the last time. As he starts pulling, he feels this incredible weight, heavier than anything else that day. And he thinks, this is it. It has to be a giant fish. And all that hope that was nearly gone just comes rushing back.
After a huge struggle, he finally manages to drag the net onto the shore. But inside, there are no fish. There's just this heavy jar made of yellow copper, and the top is sealed shut with lead, stamped with the ancient, powerful seal of Solomon the prophet.
The fisherman is ecstatic. He's thinking this has to be full of gold, right? So he whips out his knife and pries that lead seal open. But there's no jingle of coins. Instead, this huge plume of smoke just erupts from the jar, billowing up and up until it touches the clouds and spreads out over the entire horizon. The fisherman just watches in absolute terror as this smoke starts to shimmer and take shape. It solidifies into a monstrous creature, an Ifrit, one of the most powerful and fearsome kinds of jinn. Its head is like a dome way up in the clouds. Its feet are planted on the sand. Its mouth is like a giant cave, and its eyes are glowing like torches.
The fisherman is just paralyzed with fear. This colossal Ifrit looks down at this tiny man, and it speaks. But its words aren't words of thanks for freeing it from its prison. Oh no. The very first thing it offers its rescuer is a promise, and it's a horrifying one. Prepare for your death. The Ifrit tells the fisherman to pick the way he wants to be executed. Can you imagine? The man who is just hoping for a fish to feed his family is now being rewarded for his big discovery, with certain death. He's totally bewildered, pleading with the creature.
How could this possibly be his reward?
It's a pretty fair question, right? It makes absolutely no sense. But the Ifrit, he has his reasons. Reasons that have been rotting away for nearly 2,000 years in the dark and lonely bottom of the sea. You see, the Ifrit has a story of his own to tell.
So the Ifrit explains. After Solomon trapped him in the jar, he spent the first 100 years vowing to make whoever freed him rich for life. Nobody came. So he spent the next 100 years promising to give them all the treasures of the world. Still nothing. He waited 400 more years, promising 3 wishes. But after centuries of just silence, all that hope turned into this furious, bitter rage. And so he made one last, terrible vow. He would kill whoever finally set him free.
The fisherman gets it now. You can't reason with a creature that's been stewing in its own rage for centuries. He can't fight it. He definitely can't outrun it. His body might be old and weak, but his mind is still sharp. And that's when he realizes he has one weapon that this ancient, all-powerful Ifrit doesn't.
He has his wits. He thinks to himself, this thing is a jinni, and I am a man, and God has given me reason. I'm going to use my cunning to plot his downfall. He decides to use the Ifrit's own massive ego against him.
So he looks up at this towering giant, then glances down at the tiny copper jar, and he pretends to be in total disbelief. He invokes the powerful name of Solomon and asks what sounds like a simple, logical question. He basically says, I just don't believe you were ever inside this little thing. It's impossible. This isn't a plea. It's a direct shot at the Ifrit's pride.
And of course, the Ifrit scoffs at him. You don't believe me? He bellows. He is so offended that a simple human would dare to question his power. He declares that he will show the fisherman exactly how it's done. He starts to shimmer, that monstrous body dissolving back into a pillar of smoke, getting ready to pour itself back into that tiny jar, just to prove a point. The fisherman's trap is set.
But just as the Ifrit begins to transform back into smoke, Scheherazade stops talking. The sun is rising, and her story has hit its most critical point. The king, on the edge of his seat, desperate to find out if the fisherman's clever plan actually works, is left completely hanging. And so for now, are we. To find out what happens to the fisherman and the Ifrit, you'd have to do exactly what the king did. Wait for another night.